Top news for today, September 21, 2020. More health workers are now allowed to leave and work abroad. President Duterte will participate in the high-level general debate of the UN General Assembly. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, rejects the call to drop charges against Rappler CEO Maria Ressa. And Baguio City heaps praises for reopening tourism under the new normal. Good day, I am Rom Dulfo. Welcome to PNA Newsroom. Health workers with complete documents as of August 31 are now allowed to leave and work abroad. This was announced by Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque today during his press briefing in Cagayan de Oro.
Nakinig naman po ang Presidente sa hinaing ng mga nurses. So yung mga meron na pong mga papeles at kompletong documentation as of August 31, 2020, pinayagan na po ni Presidente na makaalis para sa kanilang trabaho abroad.
President Duterte will participate in the high-level general debate of the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA. This was confirmed by Presidential Foreign Affairs Advisor Robert Borge. He says President Duterte will address the United Nations General Assembly for the first time this week.
This will be the President's first time to address the UN General Assembly, the main deliberative organ of the UN, where all the 193 member states are represented. The President will articulate principled Philippine positions on peace and security, which includes terrorism and geopolitical developments in Asia and the Pacific. The President recognizes that the Philippines cannot do it alone, and the United Nations is the world's biggest platform.
Over 27 billion pesos are being eyed for various infrastructure projects under President Duterte's Build, Build, Build program. Based on the proposed National Expenditure Program for 2021, the government plans to spend the fund next year on right-of-way acquisitions for new public infrastructure projects. For right-of-way acquisitions, the DOTR's budget will be 14.8 billion pesos, while the DPWH will have 12.6 billion pesos. The law requires both departments to settle all raw obligations before the start of projects. Communications Secretary Martin Andanar rejected the call of European lawmakers for Philippine government to drop all charges against Rappler CEO Maria Ressa. Andanar said the legitimacy of the charges against Rappler and Ms. Ressa are founded on the Philippines' jurisprudence and constitution. Among these are violations to the anti-dummy law, securities code, income tax law, and cyber libel, for which she was convicted. The European Parliament earlier approved a resolution urging the Philippine government to drop politically motivated charges against Ressa and former researcher Ray Santos Jr., expressing alarm over the deteriorating level of press freedom in the country. According to Andanar, Ressa's continued allegations against the administration are being done deliberately to escape from her legal obligations. He says the administration has undertaken initiatives and endeavors that promote media protection and rights, such as the creation of the Presidential Task Force on Media Security, or PTFOMS, and the Republic Act 114581, or the expanded SOTO law. A political analyst took to social media her stand on the recent recommendation of European Union lawmakers to impose economic sanctions on Philippine goods entering their markets. In a Facebook post, UP political science professor Clarita Carlos said the European Union must be reminded to better check first the glass houses they also live in before they start throwing stones in our direction. The European lawmakers earlier recommended the revocation of the Philippines' Generalized Scheme of Preferences Plus, or GSP Plus status that provides tariff perks on Philippine goods. The EU cited the alleged violation of human rights, closure of a broadcast network, and cases of a detained legislator and a journalist as basis for the said measure. Carlos suggested that the Philippine government respond to all allegations or accusations of EU lawmakers and invite an independent team to verify the basis of their claims. Meanwhile, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the Philippine government is unfazed by EU's recommendation.
Europe, go ahead. At the time of pandemic, the whole world will pay tribute to you. They will be the
Philippine businesses
biggest
suffer from
contributor to the violation of right to life of the
decisions to
Filipinos.
Environment Secretary Roy Simato stood firm on his position to push through with the Manila Bay Beach Nourishment Project. Simato maintains dolomite sand use is not harmful and that criticisms they receive are political rather than environmental. He says the agency is only complying with the writ of mandamus issued by the Supreme Court and with the orders of President Rodrigo Duterte. Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso called for unity and cooperation in cleaning up Manila Bay. He says some people use the issue over the Manila Bay's beach nourishment project to sow hatred and spread malicious information. He also described the project as the beginning of a better day for the Manila Bay and thanked President Duterte through the DENR for taking action to revive its beauty that was neglected. What is your take on this issue? Let's find out what the public is saying about this rehabilitation project in Manila Bay.
For me is okay lang kasi para siyang inahalinturan ko siya sa Dubai, sa Jumeirah, ganyan din siya, white sand din siya. Okay lang din, maganda naman tingnan. Mas lang na hindi naman nakamasagabal sa mga taong dumadaan, sa mga sasakyan. Okay po din, okay lang siya, maganda naman.
Pwedeng kaligtasan ng mga ng mga tao. Pwedeng pasyalan. Na maganda ang ginawa ng ating Mayor Manila.
Okay naman sa akin kasi attraction din sa mga tourism natin yan eh. Also, alam nyo yung mas maganda tignan, yung mga bata dito matutuwa kaysa basura yung ilagay dyan.
Well, sa akin okay lang din naman kasi maganda naman siya at saka nawala naman din yung mga mabahang amoy at saka yung mga basura. Yan para sa akin.
Okay lang po kasi para din yan sa tourist natin na pag may pupunta dito na sa iba, so parang ito na yung mapunteriya nila napuntahan. Tapos naano din yung budget ngayon sa na may napupuntahan din.
Ang opinion ko siguro, naman siya, tawag nito, okay naman siya, approved by the DENR, and then at the same time, hindi naman siya nakaka-affect sa natin, sa kalusugan. And at lalo higit sa lahat, additional siya ng ikakaganda ng Manila Bay. So yun yung natin. Maganda ang ng dolomite sand. Yun yung doon.
Still to come, Baguio City is lauded for reopening tourism under the new normal, and police forces in Cavite intensified their presence following the reopening of the province to tourists. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Baguio City earns praises for pioneering the implementation of the new normal in the country. National Policy Against COVID-19 Deputy Chief Implementer Secretary Vince Dizon, together with Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque and Mayor Benjamin Magalong, visited the city on Friday to check the preparation of establishments for the reopening of the city's tourism sector. From being known as a top tourist destination, Baguio is identified as having the best contact tracing practices among local government units in the country. Baguio City will be open to tourists from Region 1 starting September 22.
Makikita natin na talagang modelo itong Baguio para mapakita sa buong Pilipinas na kaya na nating i-manage ang COVID-19 at paunti-unti kaya na nating bumalik sa normal na pamumuhay, pero pamumuhay na tuloy-tuloy ang pag-iingat para hindi tayo mahawa at hindi tayo makahawa sa ating mga kababayan. Dito po sa Baguio, halos parang normal na ang buhay. No, marami na pong nasa labas. Ang mga tao po ay nagnenegosyo na, nagbebenta, namimili na po ang mga tao. Pero makikita din po natin ay sumusunod po sila sa ating mga health standards. Lahat po nakamask. Lahat po, wala ho akong nakitang hindi naka-face shield nung nandun tayo sa Session Road. At kahit papano po, dumidistansya sila sa isa't isa.
People from any part of the country can now visit Tagaytay City without any travel authority, except for those who live in areas under General Community Quarantine or GCQ or higher community quarantine status. And with this development, Cavite Police were ordered to beef up its visibility to manage and control the arrival of tourists. Joint Task Force COVID Shield Commander Lieutenant General Guillermo Alcazar says their team supports the coordination and collaboration of the local government units and law enforcement agencies. He says this is a work in progress, as this is the first time that we have tourism being encouraged in an area near Metro Manila. Eleazar says the success and failure of Tagaytay City's reopening depend on the smooth and regular coordination between the LGUs in Cavite and the local police forces. He reminded the police force in Tagaytay City to regularly coordinate with its LGU in the crafting and implementation of more security and health safety protocols, as well as security adjustments, especially during weekends when the area receives more tourists. Ifugao Province is set to open its own soybean processing hub, which will benefit soybean producers in the Cordillera. More on this and other news from the provinces from William Teo.
The Department of Science and Technology and the Philippine Center for Pasture and Development and Mechanization are establishing a soybean processing hub in Ifugao, which is expected to be operational in 2021. DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña said this will be established at the Ifugao State University campus in Lamut Town. Users of the hub will be the soybean producers and processors in the Cordillera region. The project also includes training on soybean processing with a focus on product casting, packaging, and labeling. In northern Samar, the local government of San Roque has set guidelines for the transport of game fowl to eliminate tupada or illegal cockfighting, especially in remote villages. Through Ordinance Number 89 approved on Friday, the transport or movement of game fowl or fighting cocks is prohibited unless permitted by authorities. Earlier, Northern Samar Governor Edwin Ongchuan has issued a stern warning against illegal cockfighting after 4 enthusiasts in Bobon Town have tested positive for coronavirus disease. Meanwhile, operators of cemeteries, memorial parks, and columbariums in Bacolod City were told to be vigilant to ensure that visitors adhere to strict health and safety protocols amid the continuing threat of COVID-19. Mayor Evelio Leonarda issued Executive Order 61 on Saturday, imposing closure of these places from October 29 to November 4 in compliance with Resolution 72 dated September 17 of the Interagency Task Force. Operators and owners were also directed to observe the prevailing curfew hours as well as ensure that no visitors shall stay overnight. Moreover, Leonardo asked the Philippine National Police and the Philippine Army, as well as the traffic enforcers, barangay tanods, and other force multipliers to assist in the maintenance of peace and order and smooth flow of traffic in the cemeteries and memorial parks. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
In business, the Cebu provincial government is launching its micro-business aid program, dubbed as Sugbo Negosyo, on September 30. This project gives entrepreneur beneficiaries in Cebu affected by the pandemic as much as 50,000 pesos worth of starting capital. Governor Gwendolyn Garcia says the program is for those who have the passion to help themselves to entrepreneurship. Garcia has directed the Mandawi Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Department of Trade and Industry Region 7, and the Cebu Provincial Board to simplify the registration process. Garcia adds, applicants spotted to have entrepreneurial skills and who could ensure the most likelihood of success in his or her endeavor should be given the chance to join the program. The capital has allocated 100 million pesos for the program. More details and information are available at the Sugbo Negosyo official Facebook page. Cybersecurity experts warn against the probable surge in computer-enabled crimes amid radical lifestyle changes ushered in by the so-called new normal. The warning was issued on the heels of the United Coconut Planters Bank heist last June, where the bank lost 167 million pesos to cyber criminals. Palo Alto Network's country manager Oscar Visaya says the shift to the work-from-home setup, coupled with an explosion in online businesses, was a boon for cyber criminals. Visaya also said many companies act complacent despite being ill-prepared to meet cyber threats. Visaya said the US-based company is open to working with local law enforcement to ferret out criminals on the internet. Meanwhile, internet watchdog democracy.net.ph warned that the surge in IT dependence outbreak practically guarantees a commensurate increase in cybercrime incidents. It, however, clarifies most large banks in the country, as well as the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, have strong cyber defenses at their disposal. The group called on state agencies to upgrade their cyber defenses. Up next, suspected Dawla Islamiyya terrorist group member falls in Quezon City, and the CPP-NPA in Southern Tagalog is said to be on the verge of collapse and defeat. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP, at ng himpilang ito.
Authorities arrested a suspected member of terrorist group Dawla Islamiyya in Quezon City on Saturday. PNP Chief General Camilo Cascolan identified the suspect as Kevin Madrinan, also known as Ibrahim Abdullah Madrinan and Ibrahim Khalil Al-Garaba. Background investigation shows Madrinan is the contact person and liaison in Luzon of Dawla Islamiyah members from Maguindanao province. Madrinan is responsible for the recruitment of Balik Islam converts and facilitated their travel to Mindanao for training and jihad exposure. Cascolan said Madrinan claimed to be the Luzon liaison of Dawla Islamiyah after the arrest of Dato Omar Palte alias Alan Palti in Quezon City on January 1. Madrinan has links with Yusuf Makoto of Cavite and Muhammad Paras of Bulacan. Makoto and Paras died in the Marawi City battle. Cascolan assured the public of police continued efforts against domestic threat groups. Government troops have recovered a cache of firearms and apprehended a suspected member of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army in Moises Padilla, Negros Occidental. Soldiers last Thursday responded to information about armed communist terrorists extorting from residents of Sitio Bungao in Barangay Macagahay. They arrested Joselito Ebarle, who is believed to have links with the CPP-NPA. Troops found assorted firearms and live ammunition. While in Ebarle's house, they recovered a backpack containing subversive documents as well as a CPP-NPA flag. Major General Eric Vinoya, commander of the 3rd Infantry Division, thanked the locals for their support to the government troops. Meanwhile, leaders of the farmers' associations in Barangay Pilar, Hinigaran, Negros Occidental, burned the flag with symbols of the CPP-NPA in riots held at the village gymnasium on Friday. The farmers also declared the CPP-NPA persona non grata and condemned their atrocities, especially the recruitment of minors. The farmers also took the oath for peace and oath of allegiance to the Philippine government, followed by candle lighting and a prayer. Mayor Josie Nadi Arceo says his office is always open to hear the concerns of the farmers' groups, adding the government is also willing to help them. The CPP-NPA Southern Tagalog Regional Party Committee is now on the verge of a collapse and defeat. This, according to Southern Luzon Command Chief Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr. In a statement, Parlade cited the series of voluntary surrenders coming from the STRPC's ranks. Parlade reported that a total of 666 NPAs from Southern Tagalog have laid down their arms and rejoined civil society. Meanwhile, last September 15, security forces overran an NPA terrorist temporary area at Barangay Abuyon sa Narciso, Quezon. Earlier on September 14, police and army troops figured in an armed encounter with NPAs at Magsaysay Occidental, Mindoro. Parlade said the series of surrenders are taking place as members of the Makabayan bloc are desperately trying to block the budget of the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict, or NTF-LCAC, at the House of Representatives. He says so-called activist organizations have been complaining of being red-tagged, yet many of their members are allegedly dying in gunfights against government forces. In sports, several basketball players and coaches expressed hope that San Miguel Corporation's new Manila International Airport project in Bulacan will give Philippine sports a big shot in the arm. Jonas Villanueva, coach of the Bataan Risers in the Maharlika Pilipinas Basketball League and a Bulacanio, says the country can now host any major sports event with the new airport. San Miguel player and fellow Bulacanio Billy Mamaril believes that the airport will promote sports tourism. Magnolia Hotshots Pambansang Manok coach Chito Victolero, who hailed from Santa Maria Town, says the new airport could make Bulacan a go-to place for sporting events. Barangay Ginebra's Arthur de la Cruz, meanwhile, says the airport will help create more jobs for those affected by the pandemic. The Bulacan airport will be capable of handling up to 100 million passengers per year, seen to create about 30 million tourism-related jobs and generate more than 1 million direct jobs for Bulacan and nearby provinces. Over 1,000 volunteers in Baguio City joined on Saturday the observance of the International Coastal Cleanup Day activity. The volunteers collected about 45 metric tons of waste materials in 12 coastal villages of Baguio City. Those who joined the activity are soldiers, policemen, government workers, and members of groups such as the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas. Mayor Samuel Co acknowledged the volunteers who participated in the activity as part of the city's efforts to clean the environment. For their part, Melchor Carinel, chairperson of the local KBP chapter, said local journalists do not just deliver reports but also share their time as part of social responsibility. The International Coastal Cleanup Day is held every third Saturday of September of each year. 5 more bays in eastern Visayas were added to the list of red tide infested areas in the region. In the latest red tide alert by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, a total of 12 bays in the region have been contaminated with red tide toxins present in both seawater and shellfish meat. New areas with algal bloom include Villarreal Bay in Samar, Cambatutay Bay in Tarangnan, Samar, coastal waters of Zumaraga, Samar, and coastal waters of Leyte, Leyte. The Fisheries Bureau also banned earlier the trading and consumption of alamang harvested from said bays to avoid possible shellfish poisoning. Local government units are again advised to regulate the gathering, marketing, and transport of shellfish from the infested areas. Fish, squid, shrimp, and crab are still safe to eat, provided that they are fresh and washed thoroughly, and internal organs such as gills and intestines are removed before cooking. Even people with disabilities are finding themselves alternative livelihood after the COVID-19 pandemic cost them their jobs. In Iligan City, about 28 blind masseurs lost their jobs when non-essential businesses, including massage clinics, were shut down. 27-year-old Jonathan Javier works alongside fellow masseur Jury Bagkat to remove coconut husks. They are paid 250 pesos for every 1,000 pieces of coconut they peel off. Meanwhile, Alex Barrioga and his wife Leonica work as coconut husk removers despite earning less than what they get as masseurs. The couple lives with their senior citizen mother and their 8-month-old baby. Leonica said they have asked for assistance from the local government, but all they got were promises. It was a group of Good Samaritans called Dalang Panan who pooled their resources to extend help to the group of Alex and Jonathan. Engineer Teod Gayo, founder of Dalang Panan, said they say these blind masseurs work hard even during the pandemic and decided to connect and help people like them. Take a look at today's top stories. More health workers are now allowed to leave and work abroad. President Duterte will participate in the high-level general debate of the UN General Assembly. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, rejects the call to drop charges against Rappler CEO Maria Ressa. And Baguio City heaps praises for reopening tourism under the new normal. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government, how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from PNA Newsroom. I am Rob Dulfo. Good day and stay safe.